Thanks for tuning into the channel. Today we're going to be talking about one of my probably top 10 favorite albums of all time. You'll soon find out that I do in fact have pretty poor taste. But we're going to be talking today about the Jack Ruby's 1988 debut album, Fascinatin Vacation. Fascinatin Vacation, again, is a 1988 debut album by the relatively unknown English kind of C86 alt-rock band, the Jack Rubies. This particular release by the Jack Rubies features a pretty strong whirlwind of tight tracks, an overall tight track list with really, I would say, pretty wonderfully layered instrumentation, intriguing, almost comical vocals at times, delivered with a kind of raspy snarl that feels so completely out of control and yet also really quite well restrained and delivered in the way that each track demands. The Jack Rubies definitely fit into that, again, kind of C86 scene, late 80s English, kind of oftentimes described as jangly guitars. There's kind of a little bit of like almost hooting and hollering to some of the vocal delivery. And it's kind of a little bit of like a pop rock almost. The album opens with a very strong track, in my opinion, Be With You. Be With You really displays the album's lyrical charm almost immediately. With an opening line like, "To be hung, drawn, and quartered would be uncomfortable and awkward, but a fate I would endure to be with you." Ian's words and their delivery immediately hook me. Providing a backdrop for these front and center vocals are a range of really high-flying instruments, notably that kind of typical jangly rhythm guitar of the C86 scene, and tasteful piano, additionally, but those are combined with a harder, almost smithereens feeling or reminiscent lead guitar. On this particular track, those instruments are supported with a really subtle but crisp driving bass groove, and additionally, I would say crisp drums. This is a really strong opening track that, again, to my ear, hooks the listener on multiple fronts. That lyrical curiosity, vocal delivery, an extremely catchy rhythm and groove that delivers an accessible yet slightly harder take, I would say, on the late 80s English pop rock. And the album cruises through another wildly catchy little ditty with track number 2 in Lobster. It features a similar upbeat rhythm, similar guitars, high-flying lead, curious lyrics once again, but trades the piano out for moments of synth interwoven into some really curious vocal deliveries. Lobster, I think, is another strong track on the A side of the album. To me, the third track on the A side is truly where this album peaks in its songwriting, vocals, and groove. The titular Fascinatin Vacation opens with a really upbeat introduction of the instruments, slowly adding in kind of some quick ad-lib styled synth, violin, and electric guitar hits before introducing an exceptional vocal performance. So right around the 40-second mark with kind of this restrained snarl, almost as if Ian is singing in a completely different place than the instruments are playing from. There's this kind of consistent trailing of thought throughout these opening lines where like it just kind of fades out and you get the sense that these are completely unfinished thoughts and sentences, but in a good way. The track moves through that kind of continued intro, setting the story and setting the scene until close to a minute and a half in, when I would say that snarl, that signature snarl of the Jack Rubies lets loose. As Ian calls out another, again, just really odd, unique vocal line that kind of hooks me, and it's this hyena's giggle and holler, and he just brings the experience alive in the way that he kind of rips those lyrics. His drawn out, statings of station and the way he snarls gun belt and the phrase killing hat really ignite the energy in the track to me in a way that, like, when you hit track 3 on this album, it's just in full force. The whole thing is out. It is just showing how strong this band is on their debut and really, I think, could have been. A light, you take this energy and just the full force that hits with, and combine this kind of almost fluffy bass groove in the back that's much more prominent it helps this song build a lot of momentum and provides an almost uneasy sense of direction. That's one of the things that stands out to me with each of these songs on the A side of the album is there's just a strong sense of momentum and direction. You don't, while the lyrics are relatively simple in that they're oft repeated, they feel as if they're going somewhere. The song feels very much, and the album feels very much on the A side like it's moving from point A to point B in a really good way to me. The song Fascinatin Vacation features sections of instrumentation that are completely absent of vocals, and near the 3 minute mark shifts into this 20 or 30 second kind of like just banging on crap in the studio, cut out as the instruments drop off and they kind of keep banging on some drums and like randomly strumming the guitar, kind of almost at like this, elementary, like high school or talent show level of kind of noise. And then the song just absolutely kicks back in around the 3 minute and 31 second mark, dialed into 11 with this sweet yell, and then the violin and guitars hit into the foreground, and then the vocals slowly work to take back over the track, and the whole thing just ends in this really cool crescendo. Fascinatin Vacation is absolutely, to my ears, a must-listen track. Really, really cool song on a great A-side for this album. Moving on from Fascinatin Vacation, we move into the track Over My Head, track number 4, which kicks off a little bit differently than some of the previous tracks. It trades out a kind of fast, jangly rhythm guitar for a really clean groove laid down first on the drums, and then it slowly adds in the bass and some more kind of curious lyrics. The song adds in the rhythm guitar as it shifts into this state of altering really kind of abruptly between these calm verses, super neatly contained by a really frontal, clean vocal delivery and drum line, and then these aggressive choruses that get topped off by a super high-flying guitar and harmonica. That is where you get another kind of taste of that slightly harder edge that the Jack Rubies had to them. Probably some more punk roots or inspiration there than on a lot of late kind of English pop rock. Track 5 is another kind of switch up on the album. It delivers a super quick lick on the lead guitar before introducing this signature vocal snarl and whine. And it's a song about either Elvis or Elvis's dog. I don't know that much about Elvis, so it's not clear to me, but brings in some super bassy brass and kind of this rockabilly lead guitar on the bridge. Vegas Throat keeps a great tempo, tells a super funny little story, ultimately ending with just, again, a really well snarled howl of the final lines as the guitars just kind of blur into this wall of static and screeching. It's a pretty cool track. We end up moving over to the B side of the album immediately following Vegas Throat with the track Wrecker of Engines, which is somehow a really plain track and yet also completely captivates my attention. There's some kind of, not super well coded, obviously, or not super discreet, almost like Luddite messaging, some kind of fear of technology in here that at the very least I find mildly relatable. But also the song has a consistently strong melody. It's got a cool groove. And then the way that it starts off kind of with a screeching, it almost has this kind of train sound as the rhythm kicks in, as the guitars kick in. It's kind of this beat of a train rolling, similar to like A Train of Consequences by Megadeth. Not anywhere near the same style, obviously, but a really another cool track. And to me, a really strong start to the B-side. The B-side takes a little bit of a dip in my eyes with the next 3 tracks, Falling, You're So Wild, and Diamond Mine. Of these 3, Falling is by far my favorite. It's my preference. However, these are slightly softer tracks than the aforementioned Wrecker of Engines or anything on the A side. And they all feature, to me, a fairly standard build. All listenable by every stretch of the imagination, but nothing super standout here in any of these tracks. You're So Wild does have some more interesting lyrics to it that do kind of catch my ear and get me thinking a little bit more. However, again, it's nothing crazy in my eye. The final track on the vinyl version of the album is A Horse with No Name, a cover of the classic think it's in America, I think the band song. Maybe it's older than that yet. But super cool version of that track. It's got a great little swing and groove, and the kind of desert sound fit the vocals and instrumentation really well. Big fan of that one. On the CD version of the album, there are 2 additional tracks. Here Comes Love, which is probably the weakest song on the album, at least on the CD version. While, again, I mentioned those 3 on the B-side. Falling, You're So Wild, and Diamond Mine are all decent tracks. Here Comes Love is, for me, it's a skip. It's like, okay, whatever. I'll listen to it if it's here, but I'm not chasing after it. And then the album ends, again, on the CD edition, extremely strong, with the track Dallas Blues, which is all about the assassination of JFK, right? So you've got references to JFK, Jack Ruby, of course, the band's namesake, John and Lee Harvey. Really cool track with just awesome lyrics, great groove, just great pacing. And I think it's a really strong end for the album that definitely helps to pick it up after a couple of those slower tracks in the middle. So for me, this is a strong enough album that I have it on vinyl. Also have it on CD. In fact, even have it on cassette, although don't listen to the cassette all that often. The cassette version of the album does in fact end with A Horse with No Name, no different than on the vinyl. And this is one of my most listened to albums, oftentimes on my MP3 player. This is actually one of the first albums that I put on my MP3 player. I think it's a really strong album. It's super unique sound to me. It's a much different sound than a lot of the rest of this typical scene. And it's just a little something different out of the 80s, not something most people would have heard of. So if you're looking for something new to check out, you enjoy that time period, I'd strongly recommend the Jack Ruby's 1988 album, Fascinatin Vacation. So thanks for watching.